you and I, like we did, typically you and I write lines after the band's kind of laid down the initial foundation of a song. But like, kind of like, what's your first thing you think about when we're trying to write a line?
Obviously the groove is like, one of the most important things. So you check out the groove first and see what's going on with that. And, I try not to get in the way of too many things just because, obviously the horns can be a pretty dynamic and, in your face force. So, yeah, if it's a ballad, obviously, you're thinking longer tones and you're watching out for the vocals, things like that. You don't want to be stepping on the vocals too much because, you want to support them, not get in the way of them.
Yeah. That makes sense. I mean, I think you're right. Like hearing what other people have already put down, hearing what the vocals are, just kind of making sure we fill in right.
Or basic ornaments. The horns have always been kind of the ornamental finishing touches. I guess maybe the frosting that's on a cake. That's how I've always kind of looked at it. The pretty flowers.
I always thought of it like you're actually like thinking about a big game of Tetris, and like there's like an empty like hole in the cabinet. How are you trying to fill it in to make it a full complete thing? But I kind of like the frosting on a cake or the ornament to a tree. I never thought of it like that. That's pretty interesting.
So yeah, I mean, yeah. So you just kind of go with what's being given to you, and I guess that makes it a little bit easier for us because we're not actually coming up with the actual form and the style of the song. We're kind of finishing it up. Yes.
Have you ever written like a song where you started with the line and then everything else got dictated? Like, have you done that before?
Yeah. I mean, I probably did it on the spot a few times. I don't know if I've done it actually. You know, written it on paper and written it out like that. But I think I've kind of done something like that with a couple of bands on stage.
Nice.
At the last minute.
That's right. Now, do you one thing I've always struggled with is it's kind of a process, right? You don't like really figure it out the first time. Like, like when you hear something, do you like it? Do you stick with it? Like, what kind of makes you feel like it's done? I guess is something that I've always wondered. And I kind of lean on you since you've got a lot more experience than I have, right? On, you and I working together to kind of like find the lines that, we both think make sense for the band.
Right. Yeah, no, again, it's just like kind of a picking up on what the style of the song is in the first couple of listenings to it. I mean, obviously, I have to listen to something a few times, to get. But once I hear it a few times, automatically I've got ideas just all in my head that are coming up. And it's like kind of just pick one or two of them and see how it works out, or at least just play it on the horn. At least just kind of go over it with the music, and you can kind of get a feel for if it works or not, by doing that. And
yeah,
you kind of try. I do my best to remember. That's the toughest part for me, I think, is remembering. So.
That makes sense. I mean, I think the biggest thing for me is it's something I think I learned from you too, is like you don't want to like make a line that's not in the way, but you also want it to be very visible to where like you kind of like everybody knows like that's a kind of like a prominent line in the song, and it kind of just sticks, which makes sense.
Yeah. Well, and also it works the same way with like trying to not get too busy with the line because you're gonna have to play it again and again and again. So you got to think about that too. It's like you want to be able to make it something that you can do again and again, and it's not gonna kill you. I mean,
yeah. And you think about horn line writing, like think about like the first EP that we're about to release, like the Daddy Issues line. Did you come up with that? Who came up with that?
Oh, I think I came up with that main little thing. Yeah. And then I think we took an idea. I think you had an idea maybe towards the end of the line. Maybe I'm not sure. We seem to always kind of take a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
Right, which is cool because you kind of, to me, I feel like it's been good to where we kind of take each of our ideas and then we come into one. But it's interesting because every time I talk to my friends, everybody's like, "Hey, who came up with that line for Daddy Issues?" Because it's never out of my head. Like it's always in my head. Like everybody I talk to, it's always stuck in their head. No other song except that one, which is kind of funny. So it seems like that was kind of like the line that stuck with everybody so far, with all the tunes.
Yeah, that's good.
I don't know. I mean, good or bad, either way.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it is, but yeah, it's a fun line to play. So I think that means something too. I mean, it just kind of goes along with the groove.
Yeah.
So, uh,
Yeah,
yeah.
and I remember we added the harmonies to it, so I think that one thing that, is interesting, kinda like for people to get a lens into what you and I do is, you kinda make it an iterative process, like, we've always like, we like the lines, but, it can be very different a year from down the road, and, when we went to the studio and cut that track, it's very different from 2 years ago when we originally wrote the line, so I think it's kinda cool to, like, for people to realize that we take a line, we like it, but we always are trying to make it different or better.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, that's happened a bunch of times with a bunch of the songs just by us being able to play together on stage at Sea Boys and of course Skylark and all those places. I mean, I don't know how many times we've come up with lines just on stage. I mean,
Right.
I know I've come up with some stuff on stage and just been like, okay, I got to remember that one, and I'd like to keep it, and do it again. So
Yeah,
yeah, it does change a lot. We won't keep the same line, for the entire cycle of a song, I guess.
which is funny because I remember there's so many times on stage that you and I've like we like the way I view the process of there's been like a process of us writing in quarantine, but then there's been like a process when we're on stage. It's like, one of us will like whisper into each other's ear, or you like play a line in the horn where no one can hear, and then we like do that live. And some of that stuff is stuck, and some of it, I wish we'd remember because we've had some cool stuff that I
Yeah.
just don't remember what we what we came up with.
Oh, yeah, exactly. It just depends on I guess it depends on the atmosphere and uh, how many highballs we've had.
Exactly.
I
Um,
didn't say that. I didn't say that. We can
no, I
cut that out, right? We can cut
no,
that out
we should keep that in.
because
Creativity at its
we are saints, man. We are saints.
That's right. We are saints. We are the home wreckers. So that's I guess before we get into the song that we were going to kind of focus on, uh talk to me about like the other horn sections you've worked with in the past. Like, you and I's interaction, is it sort of similar or different? Like, how would you kind of characterize like the process in Miss Mack
It's
and the
always
Daddies
different.
versus others?
Yeah, it's always different. It just depends on the elements that are in the section. I mean, I know you've worked with Wayne Myers a little bit. He's a great trombonist that I love to work with. Never know. Maybe one day might become a home record, but he's a good guy to work with because he can come up with some good things too. As far as like on the spot, good horn line writer in general. But yeah, there's certain people like that you kind of remember, and when you work with them, you kind of bow down to them a little bit. Don't kind of keep your mouth shut a little bit more and listen more. And that's how you learn, I guess.
Well, I would say that actually ties nicely to my own personal experience, like with you and I. Like, I feel like listening has been so key for me. Like, and just listening like outside the band, but like listening to records, listening to other horn sections has allowed me to kind of then think I can actually come bring some ideas to the table on when we come up with these lines together. So it makes
Yeah.
sense. What about so Dream Girl is what we worked on. I think the most recent song. Like, what was the guess the first thing that kind of came to your mind when you thought about that, and then we can take a listen to what we put together and maybe talk about some of those lines.
Uh, well, my first impression of that song.
Fair enough.
No, I mean it's a catchy little song. It's pop, it's
Yeah,
obviously poppy.
yep.
Not really my forte, but it definitely had plenty of room for a catchy little, some catchy little horn lines. So I
For the
guess
intro.
overall it was fun to write something to it. But at first I remember me telling you, I was like, hey, you write something to this, but I ended up thinking of something, so I came up with something, or we came up with actually, I think this is probably one of the more collaborations we've had. I know I sometimes hog the horn lines sometimes as far as writing them, but this
This
one we actually, I
Yeah,
think you
this
came
one
up
felt
with good ideas.
very collaborative. Like, I mean, kind of like the way I think about how we did it was we kind of sat down, socially distanced, and we wrote like we listened to it and we kind of said, hey, like, we listened to the full song probably 3 or 4 times, and then we took the intro, and then we just listened to those first 8 bars, and then kind of started singing lines to each other, right? And then we said, okay, like, what are we going to come up with the intro, right? Then we took that, then we kind of found the right rhythm notes, and I guess rhythms, and then we actually put some harmonies on it. Then you go to the verse, then the chorus. So that's kind of how we took it, which was kind of fun to kind of piece it, and then you kind of put it all together.
Yeah, no, and it, and you saw how we did it, or at least it's the way that I like to do it. About the only way I know how to do it is even if I've heard a song over and over, I still want to hear the the line that we're trying to write. I want to hear that section as much as I can
Right.
because you never know when you might get another idea. That's how it kind of works with me. I if I listen to a song 5 times, I might come up with 2 or 3 different horn lines.
Yeah.
So if I listen to a section 10 times, I don't know if I come up with double amount of horn lines, but I definitely come up with more stuff. So it helps me to repeat hearing it a lot. I don't know if you noticed that or not, but I kept getting you to repeat those sections. But that's how I kind of pick and choose from different
Yeah.
lines.
Well, you're kind of honing into that one section and then getting that thing right before we move on to the next one, which makes a lot of sense.
Right. Yeah, you want to decide on something, especially playing as a section. You got to decide on the harmonies that you're playing and things like that. Have to kind of be a little bit set in stone.
Right.
At least to record something.
And to your point too, like, does it fit in with the rest of the tune, like from a rhythm, from a harmony, and like tonally, like, does it feel, is it too low or too high? Like all that kind of stuff factors in, I guess, when we're, figuring out a line. Well, I guess before we wrap up, let's listen to what we wrote, and then we can call it a day. So that was the intro, right? And I think a couple of things that I thought of immediately after kind of hearing it back after it's been a couple of weeks, right? The that first line, I had such a big time with the rhythm, and you were kind of reminding me like that thing's coming right on too, and I wanted to add kind of like an extra grace note in there. And
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
yeah, it was
No,
kind of one of those things.
I was trying to simplify it more. I mean, I don't mind trying to get jazzy with pickup notes and things like that, but at that particular point of the song, for some reason, it just seemed better just to just wait for that to, and not try to get too fancy with it. They're
Well,
fancy pants.
as we talked about it, I am known for the fancy pants. So we talked about at the front of our call, like, being from Arkansas, I can't count, so I had to remember one and two. So we we thought about that. So you kind of came with that first part, and then that last part with those hits. Those were something I came up with. So that's just kind of like a good example for the crowd on the collaboration behind the tune.
Yeah, I mean, since we both have to play the lines, we might as well both have a say in what's being played, right?
Exactly. Cool, man. Well, I think that was just kind of like a little process for getting into the life of the home records, writing a portion of a song. So I hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
Thanks.